Things are going so poorly for Donald Trump that he has now resorted to childish name-calling and threats against members of his own Republican Party. One of the issues causing Trump so much frustration in recent days is his push to completely eliminate the debt ceiling. It's a remarkable reversal given how Republicans treated the debt ceiling issue during President Biden's term. For 4 years, Republicans treated the debt ceiling as an existential crisis. They repeatedly warned against raising it, claiming that the government was spending recklessly and that raising the ceiling would be akin to enabling a drunken sailor's spending spree. They were adamant that the debt ceiling must be strictly enforced, even as Democrats pointed out the hypocrisy of Republicans' spending priorities. Now, with Trump as their leader, Republicans face a sharp contradiction. Trump is demanding the complete removal of the debt ceiling, stating that he has no intention of limiting debt increases and wants to eliminate any constraints on borrowing. His demand has been met with resistance, not just from Democrats but from members of his own party, who are holding him to the same standards they enforced on Biden. One prominent Republican pushing back against Trump is Representative Chip Roy, the Freedom Caucus chairman from Texas. Roy has refused to budge on his stance, calling for significant and real spending cuts as a condition for any debt ceiling negotiations. This principled stand has made Roy a target of Trump's ire. Trump took to his social media platform, Truth Social, to lash out at Roy in a characteristically bombastic rant. Trump began by calling Roy the very unpopular congressman, placing the phrase in quotes as if to emphasize his disdain. He accused Roy of obstructing progress for the sake of cheap publicity and claimed Roy was standing in the way of another great Republican victory. Trump further suggested that obstructionist Republicans needed to be done away with, a phrase that could easily be interpreted as a veiled threat. Trump's post evolved into personal attacks, labeling Roy as utterly unknowledgeable and dismissing him as a talentless attention seeker. He hinted at recruiting primary challengers to unseat Roy, much as he had done with former Representative Bob Good. Trump crowed about Good's primary defeat, implying that Roy would suffer a similar fate. However, Trump's analysis of Roy's popularity is wildly off base. While Roy may be unpopular on a national scale, he remains highly favored within his Texas district, where he recently won re-election with ease. Trump's attempts to portray Roy as vulnerable appear disconnected from reality. Roy, for his part, responded with a calm and measured statement. He reaffirmed his opposition to raising or suspending the debt ceiling without real spending cuts. Roy declared that he had been negotiating toward that goal and offered no apologies to Trump, Speaker Mike Johnson, or anyone else. Roy's statement was a direct rebuttal to Trump's attacks, showcasing a level of composure and principle that Trump's tirade lacked. This exchange highlights a broader issue for Trump, his waning influence within the Republican Party. While he continues to rely on threats and insults to assert dominance, his tactics are proving less effective than they once were. Roy's refusal to back down suggests that at least some Republicans are willing to resist Trump's attempts to control the party. Trump's diminishing grip on the GOP could pose significant challenges if he returns to office. Republicans who are already defying him now are unlikely to fall in line later. This internal friction threatens to undermine Trump's agenda and further expose divisions within the party. The debt ceiling debate also underscores the hypocrisy of many Republicans. While they lambasted Biden for seeking debt ceiling increases, they are now expected to acquiesce to Trump's demand to eliminate it entirely. The inconsistency is glaring, and figures like Chip Roy are refusing to play along. Ultimately, Trump's attacks on Roy reveal more about Trump's insecurities than Roy's vulnerabilities. Trump's reliance on name-calling and threats highlights his inability to engage in substantive policy debates. Meanwhile, Roy's steady response signals that some Republicans are prioritizing principles over party loyalty. This infighting within the GOP could have far-reaching consequences. Trump's inability to command unquestioned loyalty may weaken his position heading into the next election cycle. As more Republicans push back, Trump may find it increasingly difficult to implement his agenda, especially if he continues alienating members of his own party. The debt ceiling battle is just one example of this broader struggle. Trump's insistence on eliminating the debt ceiling without addressing spending cuts is likely to face continued resistance. And if Republicans like Roy remain steadfast, Trump may find himself isolated within his own party. In the end, Trump's attacks on Roy may backfire, drawing more attention to his own weaknesses rather than undermining Roy's credibility. The Republican Party's internal divisions are becoming more apparent, and Trump's attempts to paper over them with bluster and bullying are falling flat. This ongoing feud raises important questions about the future of the GOP. Will it continue to be defined by Trump's personality and demands, or will figures like Roy manage to steer it toward a more principled approach? Only time will tell, but for now, the cracks in Trump's facade of control are becoming harder to ignore.